Hi YouTube, welcome back to TXC Tells All. Today we're going to be talking about an important future investment topic that a lot of people wonder, what's the difference between a traditional 401k and a Roth IRA? If you've wondered what the particular differences between those two investment vehicles are, you need to watch this video to the end. I'm going to go through four main differences between traditional 401ks and Roth IRAs. And this information was really helpful for me to learn as I was deciding what investment vehicle would be best for me and give me the best benefits now and in the future when I reach retirement age. So make sure you watch. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe. We post new videos every single Sunday on TXC Tells All, so stay tuned. So, as we know with any investment vehicle, understanding how you're going to be taxed on your money is fundamentally important. So, let's talk about that with traditional 401ks and Roth IRAs. With a traditional 401k, your contributions, meaning the money that you invest into your traditional 401k, and the earnings, so the money that grows from those contributions from earnings that you make from the investments within your traditional 401k, are allowed to grow tax free. However, when you withdraw your money at 59 and a half, or whenever you withdraw your contributions and your earnings, you are taxed in a traditional 401k at the tax rate at that time. So for example, if you wait till you're 59 and a half and then you decide to withdraw money from your 401k, then you would be taxed at the tax rate applicable to you at 59 and a half. Now, with a Roth IRA, the contributions that you make are after taxes. So, what happens with a Roth IRA is you will not be taxed on your contributions and your earnings as long as you don't withdraw your money until you reach 59 and a half, and you have to have had that Roth IRA for at least 5 years. So one difference right there is you won't be taxed on your Roth IRA contributions and earnings if you withdraw your money after 59 and a half and you've had the account for at least 5 years. But on a traditional 401k, you would be taxed at the tax rate applicable to you at the time that you withdraw your money. So as far as taxes are concerned, that's a very distinct difference, and it's important for you to understand as you decide whether you want a traditional 401k or a Roth IRA or both. Okay, so the four main differences that I'm going to talk about in this video between the traditional 401k and the Roth IRA are taxes, penalties, contribution limits, and income requirements. So we're going to break down the differences between Roth IRA and traditional 401ks in those four categories. All right, so let's talk about penalties. Looking at the basic difference between traditional 401ks and Roth IRAs as far as penalties, with traditional 401ks, if you withdraw your money before you turn 59 and a half, you usually will have to pay a penalty. And that penalty could be 10% of the money that you withdraw. With Roth IRAs, you can withdraw your contributions at any time. So let's say you start your Roth IRA at 30, and at 31 something comes up and you need to withdraw some of those contributions. You can do that without penalty. But if you withdraw your earnings before you turn 59 and a half, you could be liable to pay a penalty depending on your age and how long you've had the Roth IRA account. So let's take an example. If you contributed $5,000 to your Roth IRA and you earned an additional $300 on that Roth IRA, and then you wanted to withdraw the complete $5,300 before you turn 59 and a half, with a Roth IRA, you may have to pay a penalty because now you're also withdrawing your earnings. So that's an important distinction between the traditional 401k and the Roth IRA. Definitely important to know as far as having access to your money before you actually reach retirement age. So something important to keep in mind. Okay, now let's discuss contribution limits and the difference between contribution limits with traditional 401ks and Roth IRAs. So, what do I mean by contribution limits? That is the amount of money that you can put into this investment account per year. So, annually, how much money you would be able to contribute to a traditional 401k versus how much money you would be able to contribute to a Roth IRA. So with traditional 401ks, they have much higher contribution limits than Roth IRAs. So let's get into the specifics of each. And I'm talking in this video about the 2020 maximum contribution limits. Be mindful that these change every year. So you want to make sure that you look at the contribution limits for the year that is applicable to you. So we're going to talk about the 2020 limits, obviously, because we're in 2020. Okay, so let's break this down into the numbers, the specific maximum contribution limits for traditional 401ks in 2020. So we're going to have to break this up a little bit because there are different maximum contribution limits if you are contributing as an individual, and then a different set of numbers if you happen to work for an employer who has matching so that they match the contribution that you're making to your traditional 401 percentage. A lot of people have that benefit, and it's a great benefit, but there are different maximum contributions for each category. So first, let's talk about individual maximum contributions to a traditional 401k. For 2020, if you were under the age of 50, you can have a maximum traditional 401k contribution of $19,500 for the year. You are 50 years or older for a traditional 401k and just the individual maximum contribution limit, that was $26,000. So you see the difference. If you are under 50 years old, you're looking at 19,500. If you are 50 years or older, you're looking at 26,000 for the individual maximum contribution to a traditional 401k. But if your employer matches, then your contribution limits are much higher with the traditional 401k, and they call this combined contribution limits. And if you are under the age of 50, and your combined contribution limit would be $57,000. So you see that's a big difference from the $19,500 just for an individual contribution. If you are 50 years or older, your traditional 401k combined contribution limits would be actually $63,500. So you see that's much higher than the individual contribution limits for the traditional 401k. Okay, so now let's look at the maximum contribution limits for the Roth IRA. These are very different and substantially lower than the maximum contributions for the traditional 401k. So for the Roth IRA, if you are under 50, for 2020 maximum contribution would be $6,000. If you are 50 years or older, for 2020 the maximum Roth IRA contribution was $7,000. And that's just it because Roth IRAs actually don't have an employer matching component. So it would just be 6,000 or 7,000. 6,000 if you're under 50, 7,000 if you're 50 years or older. And lastly, let's look at the differences between a traditional 401k and a Roth IRA as far as income requirements. For traditional 401k, it's easy. There are no income requirements for a traditional 401k. But for a Roth IRA, there are income limits, meaning that you cannot make more than a certain amount, either as individual or married if you're filing jointly, if you want to invest in a Roth IRA. If you make over these numbers that I'm about to tell you, you won't qualify to be able to contribute to a Roth IRA, and you'll have to look into other investment vehicles. So this is really important to know because if you are in these income brackets, you may want to take advantage of the Roth IRA now if you can. So for the income limits for a Roth IRA, these are the numbers for 2020. And like I said, these change every year, so you want to make sure you pay attention to that. But for 2020, To have a Roth IRA, an individual has to make less than $126,000 a year. And if you're filing jointly, you would have to jointly make less than $196,000 a year. So those are the 2020 income limits for Roth IRAs for full contribution to the Roth IRA for an individual or couple filing jointly. It's not totally over for you if you're still interested in a Roth IRA and you're an individual that makes more than 124,000. You can make a reduced contribution if you make between 124,000 and 139,000 as an individual. So these are the 2020 numbers. If you're still interested in a Roth IRA, you can make a reduced contribution if you make between 124,000 and 139,000 as an individual. I will put a link in the description box to a Forbes article that gives even more detailed information on what those reduced contributions could be. And so if you want to look into that a little bit further, check out the link below in the description box. Same thing goes for married couples filing jointly. If you still want to make a reduced contribution to an IRA because you make more than 196, or you don't make less than 196, I'm sorry. If you make between 196 and 206, you may still be eligible to make a reduced contribution as a married couple filing jointly. So check out that description box below too if that applies to you, to find out more information about what the reduced contributions could be for a married couple filing jointly that makes between 196 and 206. So now you've seen four different differences or main differences between the Roth IRA and the traditional 401k. I can tell you I personally used Fidelity to make some of these investment choices. I will also leave their link in the description box below. I think their website is also very informative and easy to understand. Some of this information can be really complicated, and I think it's best when these investment companies just break it down for regular people like us that are just working and looking for the best way to invest their money through diversified portfolios and different investment vehicles. I do think Roth IRAs and traditional 401ks are really good vehicles to look into and see if they will work with your retirement goals. I hope this video was helpful and informative. There's definitely more information to learn about this topic, and I'll probably do a follow-up video to just give people specific ideas about different companies that offer Roth IRAs and traditional 401ks and how you can go about investing in that, especially if your employer doesn't offer these benefits. It's important for you to do the research for yourself. I know I certainly did, and it was very helpful for me to research and look through the internet and see where I could find good, solid information. So I'll leave some of that information below in the description box. Please like this video and subscribe. And also check out TXC Tells All. Every single Sunday we post new videos.